When it's an emergency show, there's no time for music, no time for fluff. Let's talk about the news of the hour, which was yesterday. Hours filled with fun, craziness, and revisiting old names that are now new names, and I don't even know where to begin. That's the fun. Tanner Bibee, extended. Nolan Jones returns. What a Saturday, Zach. Had to be a lot of fun for you chronicling this.
Yeah. Those who are in our Discord, which you can join if you subscribe to our Patreon show, and the Discord was humming along nicely yesterday with so much to digest. I think people in there know that sometimes when I get a tip, and not every time, it depends if I think of it or if I'm in position to do it. I'll just send like a little bat signal, and it's an emoji, and you have to try to figure it out. Maybe it means something, maybe it doesn't. Sometimes I receive emojis from people.
Goodness.
And I am trying to decode as well. And I was walking into dinner and I got an emoji. I don't even know what the emoji is. I don't even know how to describe what it is. And I have no idea how it equates to Tyler Freeman for Nolan Jones. I'll probably be trying to crack that code the rest of my life, but it's fitting that an emoji that I couldn't quite comprehend is befitting for a trade that I can't quite comprehend from a number of different angles. So I don't know. Do you want to start with the trade? Do you want to start with Tanner Bibee? What do we do here?
I think we start with Tanner Bibee. This is the news that really impacts things for the foreseeable future. On the last episode, you asked me how many opening day starts this was going to be in a row for Tanner Bibee. I didn't know. 4. I just said 4 because that's how long he was under control. Now can I comfortably say 6 because that is how long they could conceivably control this man. What you can unpack a lot just by even the numbers in their distribution. We had a couple of people pick up on it and say, look at where that salary escalates. Either you could predict a couple of things. One, that's where the offseason he gets traded, because you have said even this offseason, the Andres Jimenez, that you can make a pact like that and still they're looking to get out of that. That was your point in making that or doing that show that we had. Okay, maybe that's the case. Others have pointed to, hey, maybe that's where the ownership change officially happens, because as this starts to escalate, that's when Dolan might look to get out. Either way, there's a positive for the Guardians, of course, because now they've locked up a pitcher that they clearly like. And I really think it's a positive for Tanner Bibee, too. And I'm interested to see kind of where you come at this, your perspective at least. But really all I can offer is how I would feel if I were Tanner. That's what I try to do. And we talked about this before. For younger pitchers, if I get a chance at a payday, and if it's even in the ballpark of fair, I'm taking it. Because there's so much that goes wrong. Look at this spring training now. Look at the arms that are going down. And you really don't even have to look very far. Look within this organization. Do you think at any point in him even conversing with teammates that he talked to a Bieber, that he talked to a McKenzie, and either one of those guys said, if the money's there, if we could go back in time, we might consider just taking that given what has happened to our careers. And I wonder with Bibee, you're in a position where you look at the money that they're offering, it's maybe fair for what you're considering. It's not like you give up your entire future. You might give up a couple of years of free agency. But as I've said before, for pitchers, if you're healthy, that opportunity for that second payday is out there. You can get it into your 30s. If you're still productive and healthy, you are going to get paid. Younger position players, that's not always a guarantee. Once you cross that age of 30, your value, unless you're really, really good, like the top of the top tier in baseball, might not be there for you to cash in for that second payday. So I would understand why, as a young position player, I would bet on myself. Unless it's the numbers were just too good to pass up. I would bet on myself because those early free agent years are so important. For a pitcher, I want the security. I want to know that my money is going to be there. I don't have to go through the arbitration process every year. And if I get hurt, if I lose a year or more, that money's still there. The only thing you have to worry about is that last year tacked on at the end. But I know what my salary is going to look like. And when I get to the end of this, I can now bet on myself that I'm going to be productive, healthy, and able to go out there and get that secondary payday. And that's why I totally understand where where Tanner would be coming from, why he would accept this, and clearly why the Guardians would want it too.
There's a lot to unpack here. So, first of all, this was a 2-year process. I think there's a lot of factors that kind of push this in different directions. One being he earned a full year of service time as a rookie because he finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting. So that sped up the timeline here. This might have been the last chance you had to lock this guy up. And these two sides talked a year ago. And I think Bibee's camp was, clearly they didn't come to any resolution. Not thrilled with the offer. It was significantly less than this. And the Guardians are pretty stubborn in a lot of ways. They have a value and they don't like to budge off that value, whether it's in a trade or signing somebody. And so I think credit to Bibee for delivering another season where his value is only going to go up, right? Like I think with Stephen Kwan, he had that great rookie year, and then year 2 fell back a little bit. And I think that matters when you don't have a ton of evidence in these sort of situations where the team's really motivated because they know they can get you cheaper than market value, and they want to buy out a free agent year or two. But as a player, you're weighing so much risk reward here. And you're right. It's a completely different equation for a pitcher. And with Bibee, I think it's also important. Like he did really want to stay here. I think he wanted this just out of the way. I think he was a little disappointed and frustrated that conversations last year didn't get further along, maybe. I think he's in a place where he's really comfortable. He likes the pitching group around him. I think you think about all the things, because I saw it too. My mentions were flooded with people saying, oh my God, Bibee got ripped off. What a terrible contract. And it's like, look, man, $48 million is $48 million. And he still can become a free agent and cash in at the age of 31, maybe 32. Like he's going to be okay. And he's in a place now where he's comfortable, where he thinks that they can win, and where he doesn't have to worry about this. He can plant his roots. He can be the guy here. Corey Kluber was the guy here, made 5 straight opening day starts. Shane Bieber was the guy here, made 5 straight opening day starts. There's nothing stopping Bibee from being that now. And he can be a leader to the other guys, knowing he's going to be here. You don't sign an extension and you play out this season, and then you become an arbitration eligible player. And after one season of arbitration, like you're looking over your shoulder, like you know how this works. So I think, it's more, I was talking to somebody about this who deals with like negotiating these contracts, and they're asking me like, so what did you think about the Bibee deal? And I said, look, on the surface you see, $48 million. And like, that doesn't seem like very much for a guy who is your ace. But that's not the pitcher's fault. And that's not the team's fault. It's the system. Like in baseball, it's very rare for a player to be paid their peak value at the time that they are performing at their peak. And that's one element of why the sport is so screwed up. But it's just, that's how this works, where it takes 3 years till you get to arbitration, and then another 3 years till you get to free agency, and then you can really cash in. But by that point, you're 31 years old, and teams are like, no, I don't want to pay you when you're 34. So this is what you end up with. And I think it can be a good deal for both sides. And, those $21 million salaries at the end, that's still that's a bargain if he's an ace. Like, that's a really good deal. They've paid guys not that much, but like there was 1 year of Kluber where I think they were paying him like 17, 18, and then they got rid of him before they were paying him a little bit more than that. And we don't know how David Blitzer will operate. Like I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that they trade him before that final year. They could. It was one of the first things that when I saw how much that salary jumps toward the end, like that was the first thought that crossed my mind too. But there's a lot we don't know. We don't know. Like that's post the next collective bargaining agreement. Like there could be a salary cap, there could be a salary floor, there could be new TV revenue sharing formats. There's a new owner in there's a lot we don't know. So all in all, like it's a victory for the team. It's a victory for the player, and for anyone to suggest otherwise, like you don't know him. You don't know like what matters to him, and I think he feels comfortable, more relaxed now, and the Guardians are got to be thrilled.
Oh yeah, I mean, to be clear, I wouldn't be upset with any player saying, no, I'm gonna bet on myself. But again, I can only tell you if I could drop myself into his position, what I would do. Now, granted, this is, for you and me, we hear $48 million. Sure, what do you want me to do? I don't care. Obviously, for a player, they've been positioning themselves in the future to hopefully get a payday that's more than that. But if even you were to play this out, the process, I don't understand what you would understand, where you would feel like he's giving up a significant amount of money that's worth more than the other end of the pendulum, which is the security of knowing what your career is going to look like for the next 5 years at least. I mean, play this out. So he goes to arbitration, and the numbers that we have, like maybe he could earn a couple $1 million more every single year. To me, again, this is just me speaking, I would happily give up the chance to earn a couple more $1 million, knowing that I am going to earn the money that's there, that there's nothing that's going to take that off the map. That's guaranteed to me now.
Well, the Grim Reaper is always lurking, right? And so if you're going to have elbow surgery at some point, and I hate that this is how we have to talk about pitching, but I mean, look at Tristan McKenzie. I think he wishes he would have gotten that sort of deal, and they were close in the spring of 2023. You don't know when you might get hurt. And if you get hurt at the wrong time, I mean, Shane Bieber, another great example of this. He bet on himself. He went through arbitration. They did not come to a contract extension agreement. And he needed Tommy John surgery in his contract year. So now he has to put that big free agent payday on hold again and do a build back your value type of deal for at least a year here. And so you, again, if Bibee needs elbow surgery in that final year of arbitration and you were hoping to cash in on a $200 million deal, and now you're out and you got to come back in the middle of the next year. And so you sign a 1-and-1 with someone, and you don't know how this is going to shake out.
No.
Or maybe you need elbow surgery and you don't bounce back as well as you hoped, and your stuff's different and teams have to evaluate you. And then you're settling for like a 2 for 24 or something like that. Like there's so much that can happen. And I know it's not for everybody, but I think some guys value that security.
Yeah, I don't think you can take that away from a player. Everyone is motivated by different things, and that's okay. But clearly here, the security is a big deal for him. Now, in saying that, I'm not saying leap at the first offer that gets put in front of you. That's not what I'm saying.
Didn't.
And I think the deal that Cleveland gave him, it gets uncomfortable. Now, they've left them probably themselves some wiggle room at the end if they want to. But this is, I don't think this is like, whoa, they drastically underpaid Bibee here considering what he could have gotten ARB. I don't think that's the case at all. I think this is in line closely with what, again, if this would have played out, he probably would have gotten, but at least now you know that it's here. So I give the organization credit. They still have to step up and give you a deal that is within the ballpark of what you would consider accepting, so that other end of the balance scale here, it weighs out.
Yeah, you also, and this sounds so weird to say, their pipeline is full of young, promising hitting prospects. Not so much on the pitching side. So you've locked in your best dude on the pitching side for, he's starting to get toward those years where I'm like, 2030? What? Even though it's only 5 years away. And it's bizarre like that. Who's the next ace after Bibee? I don't know who it is. Is it your boy Parker Messick? I don't know that his ceiling is that high. So
We don't even know his name yet, more than likely.
yeah, so like on the hitting side, I could rifle off 5 or 6 hitters who could be really intriguing guys in this lineup in a couple years. And so if you're not going to be as motivated to lock up a position player, and I'm not saying that, I don't know, maybe they strike something with somebody here. But on the pitching side, like you what are you building around? It's Bibee, and you hope Gavin Williams can join him, and you've got Luis Ortiz under control for a while now. And then there's a lot of question marks. So I think it's important to have stability, have a guy you'll have, so that you're not playing this game where it's like, okay, our pitching's really strong. Now we're just waiting for hitters to come up, and the hitters are here, but now our pitching's weak. And, trying to line all this up.
Threading that needle, not as easy as they make it seem. Credit to Bibee here, because also in terms of just pitching and talent, yes, he was there and he's been there previously. But another part of getting a long-term contract, especially from a team like Cleveland, is you got to check all the boxes personally, mentally, leadership-wise. They expect a lot from the people that they give extensions to. They want you to be able to offer a quote that they put in a handbook that they give young scout or young prospects. The scouts are handing out. That's what they want from the people that they give the money to. And clearly he's ascended to that role where they trust him to lead the staff, not only in talent, but also just where he's at mentally as well. Really taking that leadership role last year, as you've laid out the last few shows, elevating himself to be the club ace, challenging him on the mound in the middle of a game or towards the end of his start, and him responding. There are elements here that he had to also show him he was going to be capable of, and he checked all those boxes. He cleared all those hurdles too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good summary. He's the guy, and he said it. He said he wants to be that guy the manager looks to. They're like, oh, we need a pitcher today. Who we got? We got Bibee. All right, we're good. I was telling him, like, your catchers always talk about you're going to win a Cy Young Award. He's like, I think the same thing. But them saying that means nothing. I have to go do it. Like, he's got the right mindset. And I think he learned a lot last year. I think he learned a lot about being a perfectionist, navigating through tougher outings, and not putting so much pressure on himself that it becomes detrimental. And yeah, I mean, he was the guy you wanted on the mound. He was, even on short rest against the Yankees, he rose to the occasion. So I think we've spent so much time buying the Gavin Williams hype this spring, wondering about Luis Ortiz and Tristan McKenzie, and Bibee's just quietly flown under the radar. Just
that's a testament to him, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And
to his stability.
I'm telling you, that start against the Reds about a week ago, where he had 6 scoreless innings, it was like 66 pitches. It took like 45 minutes. That was him being like, hey, remember me? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that is following the ideal way you want a pitcher to pitch. It's like the second to last start, you want him to look like that. And then in the last start, just breeze your way through. I don't really care. Just look normal, look fine.
And that's kind of how going on.
That's what it looked like to me. Just your tune-up. Make sure you're not hurt. Make sure everything's good. Opening day's in line. Everything's fine. That's the way you want it to play out. So I'm sure the Guardians had to come away pleased with that. And we'll unpack more of this coming up this week. He'll be a big, I'm sure, a prominent member of our war draft coming up this week as well. And so we'll really unpack more of this, and really we can go back the past few shows. I feel like we tried to balance the scales a little bit more in his favor the last several shows, almost like we knew this was coming.
Can you explain the trade?
Can I explain the trade? Yeah, you've seen the plot of Draft Day.
Explain it to me like
all my draft pick back. All of my draft picks back. All of them. And I want a punt returner too. That's how I envision Chris Antonetti working his way through this deal with Colorado. You've seen Draft Day, right? You know what I'm talking about.
No. Kevin Costner?
Yeah. Jennifer Garner. I think she suggested the punt returner.
So I've had multiple, like at least 2 trying to think if there was a third. Let's say 2 people this spring, unsolicited, tell me in the context of different conversations that whenever you have the itch to make a trade, your first move is always to call the Rockies. Because you never know like what inane thing they might be willing to do. Whether it's you see a guy that maybe hasn't produced numbers yet in the big leagues, but he's got stuff or he's got the metrics, and you figure the Rockies probably haven't figured this out yet. Let's go grab this dude before he becomes really good. Or let's unload this. Like Cal Quantrill. The Guardians were just going to just say bye-bye. And then they called the Rockies, and the Rockies were like, here, do you want Cody Huff for him? And the Guardians are like, okay, sure. Cody Huff, like, really good defensive catcher, and, you know, maybe he could be a backup catcher one day. I think he very well could be. And so they got something for Cal Quantrill when they didn't think they were going to get anything for him. And the Rockies had Cal Quantrill and then cut him after, 1 year. So the Rockies are just like everybody's best friends. But it's all, you've done this in fantasy sports. You know, when you're trying to make a trade and you got this trade you really like, but you don't want to be overbearing about it, because if you are like, come on, let's finish this. Let's do this. They're going to be like, wait, why are you being so pushy? Why are you so insistent on getting this done? Am I making a bad trade? You don't want to give them the chance to self-evaluate. The more I hear about how the Rockies operate, the more I feel like it is legitimately like you're trying to rip off that idiot in your fantasy league. You know, they're not like, didn't they like disband their analytics department a handful of years ago? Maybe they've hired people back in years since, but what are they doing? Year after year, they are terrible, and they show no signs of trying to improve. So here's what I don't know. I'm still trying to process this trade and figure out from Cleveland's standpoint, like what it means. I think there's going to be more shuffling. There's going to be more movement because the pieces maybe don't quite fit. Like Nolan Jones and Will Brennan they kind of fit the same piece, even if they're very different hitters. And what's this going to look like in terms of a utility player? And like I think there will be another roster move before opening day. There has to be. So I'm curious, and I'm curious to learn like how Nolan Jones is different now than he was 2 years ago. But if you're dealing with the Rockies, I'm always going to give the benefit of the doubt to the team that is not the Rockies in this trade. So it's so strange. And, you know, I actually thought Tyler Freeman, I said it on our last show, like he had positioned himself to play a lot, I think. Certainly against lefties, and in a role where he could get some at-bats at second base. On days Jose Ramirez DH'd, I think he was in line to play at second or third. I think he could have seen some time in center field. I think he had carved out a role, but I think, you know, the Guardians, they're getting power. And it's something they've needed. And they're getting it at a position where we've talked about, like, in right field, if Will Brennan doesn't hit, then you better hope Giancarlo Noel just goes on one of his unconscious tears for a while until Chase DeLauter returns. But even when Chase DeLauter returns, how confident are you he can stay healthy? There's a lot of questions there. So maybe this alleviates some of that.
Yeah, in making fun of the Rockies, let's be clear, they did get the season where he hit 20 home runs, Nolan Jones, stole 20 bases, and looked like a promising young player. And yes, we all at the time liked Juan Brito. We still like Juan Brito. Still could play a role for this team even beyond just this year, the years ahead. And now they have a scenario where they have Brito and Nolan Jones. Now you gave up Tyler Freeman. I think it's putting a lot on second base, but they also have so many names here. You better be able to find the right guy for at least this year before Travis Bazzana shows up. So where Tyler Freeman was going to fit long-term, was he just going to be the utility guy? Is that the best use of him? It really all comes down to what role do you think Nolan Jones is going to play. Now, let's be clear. This team was going the way they were set up today. We're going to have some problems against right-handed pitching. Nolan Jones should help. Now, he brings a different skill set than even Will Brennan brought. I don't know how different they'll be in terms of total run creation. They might look the same by the time you get to the finish line, but how Nolan Jones is going to get there is more with power, and it kind of complements more of what Jhonkensy Noel brings from the right side. Maybe that's a total right fielder between Jones and Noel. I don't know. But doesn't it all come down to what version of Nolan Jones are you going to get? If he was the guy he was in 23, the Rockies aren't trading him. They're not giving him up. They want to hold on to that. Okay, yes, I get it. Jokes aside, though, they probably want to hold on to that.
Yeah.
So there is some doubt there on their side that he's going to be able to get back there. And I think as we saw that season from afar, we all sort of thought it's a great season, and like the power and the speed, that's all legitimate. The average, that's propped up probably by cores. It's propped up by good luck. He had an overinflated season in terms of just the total stat line. But underneath the surface, the power and the ability to steal bases, that was there, and he had a good year. It's not like he lucked his way completely into having a good year. But there was a reality there that he was probably going to come back down to earth, probably not going to sustain a 400 batting average on balls in play. And then last year happened, and I think it has all the markers in terms of, we know that he was hurt and he wasn't healthy, but I think if you look below the surface, that all suggests similar things too. The bat speed was down a little bit. He actually hit the ball harder. He had a hard hit rate, but they were all on the ground. He had far more grounders than he's ever had in the major leagues, over 50%. And you go back to 23, where he's at 43.8, so 52.1 to 43.8, hitting the ball on the ground a lot more, so couldn't elevate it the way he wanted to. Far fewer balls in the air pulled as well. Maybe that matters less when you have as much power as he does, but still pulled air balls are kind of what you're trying to get to. And that was like 4 or 5 percentage points less than the previous year. So he was still capable of hitting the ball hard, but he couldn't barrel the ball, couldn't really launch it. And to me, that tells me, okay, he's the back issues, probably something that were plaguing him that last year. But is that something that's going to continue to plague him? Did he form more bad habits because of it? What version of Nolan Jones are you getting in making this trade? I'm not saying don't see what you got. I think he's a fun project to have here. And gosh, if he's anything close to 23, what a hell of a trade. We'll see. I am excited. I think this is a fun fit for this team. I just don't know what the finish line looks like.
The risk seems worth it, though, right? Like
I think so.
I still believe Freeman can be a decent major league hitter. And he should get
fun
the opportunity.
Fit for cores.
Yeah, he should get an opportunity to shine there. And even if he has a good year, this is a risk worth taking. If he has a good year and Nolan Jones doesn't quite work out, like I wouldn't even. Also, you still have Juan Brito. Like it's you basically traded Freeman
Brito for Brito. Yeah.
And 2 years of Jones for Brito, and then you get Jones back. I think that this has worked out well for Cleveland. Here's what I know. I think the 2023 numbers were inflated a bit by the elements that you suggested. And I think 2024, you look at those numbers and you're scared off. And it's probably the truth lies somewhere in the middle, doesn't it, TJ? And I look at the skills and I say, okay, we know this dude has tons of power. 20 home runs in 367 at-bats in 2023. Even if that's a little bit cores aided, that's fine. 20 stolen bases as well. He's got speed. He had a 2020 season in 2020. I mean, we're like, man, if Lane Thomas can go 2020, that'd be huge for this team. Well, Nolan Jones has done it, just did it 2 years ago, and did it without like a full season's worth of plate appearances. And as a rookie, like that's in there. The guy also has, you know where his arm strength ranks in right field? 100th percentile. So
yeah,
I like that.
Good.
That's pretty good too. There are questions about his range. There are questions about how much contact he can make. You know what else I like? The walk rate. He draws a ton of walks. His chase rate was really good last year. So there are elements here. He's going to strike out a lot. You have to live with that. But I'm with you where you think about a Jones-Noel pairing and it's like, you could just have one, like you put them together and maybe that's 40 home runs, even if it's two guys, and it's a ton of strikeouts, but it's a lot of walks. And I guess that's an interesting player. If you had that person hitting like sixth in your lineup. So the skill set here is intriguing enough that it's worth the risk to me. What happens next is what I'm wondering. And, the other thing, he's 26. Like, it feels like he was in the system forever. And then we saw a brief glimpse of him.
Yeah.
And then he's been gone for a couple of years. He's still only 26 and he's still pre-arbitration. So there's a lot they can do. One other thing.
Oh boy.
You know who I trust? Who maybe saw something and was like, I think we can get him back to that guy he was 2 years ago? The Guardians hitting coach, Grant Fink, who was a lower level hitting coach, hitting coordinator. He's a guy who helped Stephen Kwan with his swing. He knows Nolan Jones. This is not some team saying, well, remember when we had Nolan Jones back in AAA a few years ago and, maybe the Rockies are undervaluing him. Let's get him back. These are people who know him, who know the swing, who can recognize differences on video and know his mentality. And I think that could be that's why I trust Cleveland in this equation. I also know Nolan Jones is like a 100th percentile makeup, work ethic, character type of kid. I have nothing bad to say about the deal. Even if it doesn't work out, it's a risk worth taking. His size and his skill set, that's something that you'd want to buy low on.
Sure. I mean, think about what the best case scenario for either one of the players involved in this deal is. The best case scenario for Tyler Freeman is, hey, he actually is like a 280 hitter, and he bounces around, and he's a utility guy, and there's value in that. Okay, and that would help you.
That was going to be as a utility guy.
And that was going to be as a utility guy, maybe a lot at second base, sure, but
just for
long
this year.
term,
right.
And he's a right-handed hitter. What does his team need? More bats that can hit right-handed pitching, and doing it from the left side helps. So the best of Nolan Jones is anywhere close to what he was the previous year. That, to me, is more impactful for what this team needs than what maybe Tyler Freeman was going to bring as his best. You look at what was Nolan Jones's WAR in 23. I mean, that was a ton of value that he brought for Colorado. I pulled his Fangraphs page down.
3.8, and he only played in 106 games.
So don't go and take him in the WAR draft. I'm happy this happened before the WAR draft, so now we can maybe utilize that value. But I don't question, if he's healthy, he's going to produce something I think is meaningful for you. I just can't answer that health question. I don't know for sure if this isn't going to be a lingering issue or if it's something he's put behind him. I mean, the numbers in spring training this year don't suggest, hey, the power's all back and everything's great. But I am 100% on board with taking the shot here because I think Nolan Jones, his best, fits much better for bringing out the value that you need maybe than Tyler Freeman would have. And that even goes beyond just the number of middle infielders that are still here lingering and Travis Bazzana in the future.
His OPS plus in 2023, and this takes into account park factors, so it's not just cores doing this, it was 140. You know where that would have ranked on the Guardians in 2023? First. Well, second. Zach Collins was at 232 in his 6 plate appearances. But yeah, he would have been the best hitter on the Guardians in 2023. And he stole 20 bases, and he's got a rocket for an arm. And I think on Fangraphs he was actually a plus defensively that year, a major minus last year. But again, if he's got back issues and he can't move, that's one thing. So, yeah, I mean, there's a reason he was their top prospect for a long time. Like, there are tools there that could make him a really productive major leaguer, and we've seen it. And for some reason, the Rockies, after 1 year, were ready to move off of that.
Yeah, that does make me a little bit alarmed, but it is the Rockies, as you said. Maybe Cleveland is seeing something here, or maybe not, but they're betting on the skills, and they're betting in their ability to bring out the most in him. And beyond that, they're saying, based on roster fit, Nolan Jones brings something that Tyler Freeman cannot for this group and this year, and it just makes sense for us to make this swap. Maybe we don't have to look much deeper than that. Just they look at their their inefficiencies against right-handed pitching and realize we could use another bomber either off the bench or as our right fielder on the fatter side of the platoon. And, of course, we're probably also looking at, as you alluded to, just a portion of this final puzzle that we're going to see before opening day. What does this lead to? We can't even begin to speculate as to maybe what Will Brennan, his role is going to be, anybody else on this bench, what their roles are going to be, because they could conceivably make another move or two before opening day happens, and it renders all of that moot.
Yeah, there's still 4 days till opening day.
So we're going to be back here for an emergency show very soon?
Who knows? I'm just trying to prep for the war draft, man.
All right, well, that's coming up this week. So right here, YouTube, subscribe if you don't want to miss that.